Welcome to Week 7 of the 2025 NFL season. Last week, we had quite a few banger games and plenty of teams going on fraud check. Will some of those suspicions come true, and will we get more entertaining games like we saw last week? I suppose there's only one way to find out, as today I'm going to give you a breakdown, preview, and predictions for every single game on the Week 7 schedule. And if you enjoy hearing about other people's game picks, then be sure to subscribe to the channel because I do this every single week here. But let's just dive straight into the action starting on Thursday between the Bengals and the Steelers. I don't know what it is with Thursday night always having all these divisional games, but oh well, I suppose. This one maybe won't be the most enjoyable to watch for people, but I do think it could be a close game. The Bengals actually gave the Packers somewhat of a run for their money last week, which I definitely did not expect, knowing that Joe Flacco was coming in just off of a few days of preparation and having to deal with that offensive line while not being all that mobile as well. I could have sworn that game was going to be a murder and the Packers were going to get like 4, 5, 6 sacks, but Joe Flacco mostly stood on his feet and it was a one-score game heading into the fourth quarter. Especially because the Steelers may actually be a little fraudulent themselves. They've had a relatively easy schedule so far. They haven't beaten that many noteworthy teams or anything like that. I think if pushed, they could absolutely lose this game. There's a real opportunity this ends up being a very close match, but I just can't get myself to go with the upset. I can't convince myself to trust in this Bengals team without Joe Burrow to do anything. Maybe Flacco can connect with Chase and some of these other weapons on a consistent basis in this game, but the issue is there's so much room for this to be a disaster. I don't really see a world where Joe Flacco only gets sacked once again this week, not against the Steelers. You're only going to luck out so many times when playing these ferocious pass rushers and teams that are just known for their defense. I think Flacco is going to struggle in this game, and in the end, the Steelers are going to edge out a really ugly game. I think they have the advantage on the front line, the war of attrition up front, and also, I just don't see how the Bengals defense will get the stops needed to keep this game close. Rodgers and the Steelers offense isn't anything special, but I think they have more than enough to handle one of the worst defenses in the NFL, so I'm going with Pittsburgh. Then on Sunday morning, you got the Jaguars going back to their second home basically in London, taking on the LA Rams. Two 4-2 squads here going head-to-head in an international game, and this is another one that I'm kind of looking forward to start the week. The Jags, yeah, they just had a rough loss to the Seahawks, but I think with how this team is playing this season that there's gonna be some ups and downs, but the common denominator is going to be that they'll always be in just about every match they play. This is a very competitive group, and I think against the Rams, it will be no different win or loss. And I believe that type of trait, that type of we're not going to go away personality is very advantageous against this Rams team. If we're being honest, the Rams haven't looked all that impressive. They haven't had any true statement wins so far this season. A lot of games have been close or ugly, or they've blown games that they shouldn't have lost, and the late game execution has certainly been a problem. They choked away a very easy, winnable game against the Niners and the Eagles, and they didn't look all that good against the Lamarless Ravens. They won 17-3. They really didn't move the ball all that well. The Rams feel sluggish to me. And now they're going to go over to London to play the Jags. And the Rams, they don't go there all that often. Matthew Stafford, he's only played in London like one other time in his career. So there's a big advantage for the Jags there, who again, basically have that place as a second home. They go there every single year to be a home team. I think the traveling, along with the Jags just being better in the late game scenarios, leads me to believe that they're going to win this game. Especially if Puka Nacua can't go out there. It kind of seems like he won't be ready to go based off of what I've seen with the headlines. He had an ankle injury last week, and they may just want to rest him since the bye week is coming up for them. And without that weapon, somebody they've relied on so heavily in their offensive game plan, that it's going to be the Jags' game to lose here. I think that the defense can get enough stops to keep it close, and then Trevor Lawrence and those guys can work their magic as they've done a lot throughout this season. I don't feel good about the Rams, and while the Jags did lose, I'm not going to hop off the train because of one loss. They've just been that random team of destiny, and I think they're going to get back in the win column against a Rams team that is a little bit overrated. Now for Sunday afternoon. First, you've got the Saints versus the Chicago Bears. I won't lie, coming into this week, I was very tempted to pick the Saints to pull off an upset here. It'd be a very Bears thing to do, to go on a 3-game winning streak, upset the Commanders, then lose to the Saints of all teams, but I just can't get myself to commit, because I think the Bears can only get better from here. Beating the Commanders, I believe, could be a huge momentum booster for this squad. If you remember last year, when the Hail Mary happened against the Commanders, that basically derailed their whole season. Now, after getting their payback, after getting their revenge, it could have the opposite effect, where it boosts them into a different stratosphere. Will this game be a cakewalk? Probably not. The Bears have been winning in ugly fashion as of late, so we could see more of the same here. But again, I think they're in a good direction to show some improvement and take advantage of the light schedule. That's been something they've done pretty good with so far this season, taking care of business against the teams that they definitely can and or should beat. I think the Saints are overdue for a tough loss, and they usually play better at home. They're going to be on the road for this one. I think they're just a little bit outmatched, and the Bears defense will give them enough trouble to keep them from taking the lead late in the game, let's say. I got the Bears winning an ugly one. And then, oh boy, the Browns are taking on the Miami Dolphins, a game that actually could end up being a 50-50. If Tua plays his absolute worst and that Browns defense really gets to him, I think there's a real opportunity for the Browns to win this game. With how bad the vibes are in Miami, anything is possible right now, even losing to the Browns. But the problem is that I don't know if the Browns offense can take advantage of the opportunities given to them by the defense. Dylan Gabriel has looked, well, like a rookie. There's been a lot of mistakes, an inability to move the ball downfield consistently. And it does help playing a Miami defense, which is easily the worst he's played so far in his career, so maybe that could get him going. But even then, I don't know if I trust him. The Browns are not a very good football team, and I think it's going to take nothing short of a miracle for them to beat Miami, because as bad as they are, eventually they're going to score points in a barrage, and once it gets to that point, I don't think the Browns stand a chance. They've got to win this game like 13-10 or something, and I just don't see it happening. Both teams are going to explode. It's going to be an awful game, but I think Miami are just a little bit better. They've been in a lot of games lately, even though they suck still, so I think that's enough to warrant a Dolphins victory, although I don't exactly feel good about picking them. And then you've got the Tennessee Titans versus the New England Patriots in one of the easiest picks of the entire week. It's just the Pats. You've got to pick them to win this game. The Titans are without a doubt the worst team in the NFL right now. I'm happy that they fired Coach Callahan. That's a step in the right direction, but there's a big mess that needs to be cleaned up, and I don't think going to an interim head coach is suddenly going to solve all of their problems, all of their offensive woes. Mike Vrabel's a genius. He's a great coach. He's going to have a good game plan to stop that rookie quarterback Cam Ward, and then the offense should be able to take care of the rest. This is just a mean mismatch in all facets. The Pats have looked really good as of late. They feel great after beating Buffalo not that long ago. They're on a winning streak. They've been consistent all year. They're at the top of the AFC East. They won't let this gimme game go to waste. As for maybe the other easiest game of the week, the Raiders are going to visit Kansas City to play the Chiefs. The Chiefs finally had their get-right game against the Detroit Lions, and they looked great in that match. The best I've seen them look all season without a shadow of a doubt. The offense is starting to click. They're getting Rashee Rice back this week as well, which is another big boost. They had a great game plan to keep the Lions offense in check, and now they're playing the Raiders, who are very turnover prone thanks to Geno Smith, and that has Steve Spagnuolo probably licking his lips in excitement. The Chiefs should be winning this one with relative ease. The Raiders haven't beaten anyone special. I mean, they beat the Pats, but that was a long time ago, and obviously they're a much better team than that Week 1 matchup, so yeah, it's the Chiefs for sure. They've been the better team in this rivalry for a long time, and you just can't trust the Raiders right now. They really do stink. This is Chiefs all day, every day. Then we have a potential fraud watch in the making here when the Philadelphia Eagles play the Minnesota Vikings. This is a big one for Philly. If they lose this one, their season genuinely might be over. they've got to get right in this game because the vibes are horrible right now. They're all probably pissed after losing to the Giants, in a state of panic. Jalen Hurts and the receivers aren't on the same page. They can't run the ball. They're injured as well. It's just an entire mess for Philly. They cannot afford to lose this game. And what's scary is they really might. The Vikings are coming off a bye week, well rested with that aggressive Brian Flores defense, and they're playing a frustrated Philly offense. That could be a recipe for disaster. I'm really worried about Philly in this one, man, but I think I am going to pick them to win here. Reluctantly, but that is going to be my pick. It's just hard to see the Eagles with all that talent losing 3 games in a row. It just seems too crazy to be true. And at the end of the day, maybe the Vikings will have a chance late in this game, but I don't trust whoever is at quarterback to win this game. I've heard that J.J. McCarthy returned to practice, so maybe it's him. And if it's him, I especially don't trust the Vikings to win. The Eagles will probably destroy him. But if it's Carson Wentz, I really don't feel that much better. It took a game-winning drive against the Browns the other week. I don't love where him and that offense is at. I think there's just more consistencies for the Eagles side of things. Not much, but just enough to get ahead of the Vikings in what will probably be a pretty ugly game. And then to close out the 1 p.m. slate, it's the Panthers versus the Jets. And let's just call it how it is. There is absolutely zero reason whatsoever to ever have faith in the Jets to win a game until they prove otherwise. That game against the Broncos was some of the most unacceptable game planning, execution, and overall play from a team I've seen in a very long time. From the coaching to Justin Fields to the O-line, they could not do anything right in that game, even though Denver gave them every opportunity in the world to put them in the grave. They just couldn't do it. The Jets just keep on jetting. They keep butt fumbling their way to a loss after loss after loss, and now they're playing a Panthers team who in recent weeks have shown competence. They're back to 500. They're coming off a big win against the Cowboys. Their offense is starting to click, and I don't see a world where the Jets offense is suddenly going to click overnight. Since week 1, it's been an absolute train wreck. This team can't stop shooting themselves in the foot, and I think even if the Panthers don't bring their A game, which is very much possible, they'll still win anyway just because the Jets keep on jetting. Give me the Panthers all day, every day here. On to the 4 p.m. games, starting with the New York Football Giants versus the Denver Broncos. I gotta say, there is big room for an upset here. Vegas actually at the opening line had the Broncos as like a 7.5 point favorite. I still think that holds to be true right now, and that just seems crazy to me. I know they're at home. I know they're playing a rookie quarterback, but man, the Giants looked phenomenal against the Eagles, and the Broncos looked like garbage against the Jets. So I don't really know where they get that line from. But the thing is, I kind of think the Broncos are going to win this game. I've already fallen into this trap once as a Giants fan this year, where I get optimism after beating the hell out of a team that they probably shouldn't, and then they lost to the Saints right after beating the Chargers. So there's no way I'm making that mistake again. I think the Broncos are going to bounce back and win this one. They look very vulnerable. I'm praying my Giants can take advantage of it, but I just don't see it happening. Denver at home here, they're going to have a bounce back game. There's no way they look as bad as they did against the Jets last week. That was just a crazy game. They're going to be a lot better with the execution. This team loves to run the football with J.K. Dobbins and Harvey, and the Giants' run defense is very subpar, so I think the Broncos probably control the tempo in this game. They maintain time of possession, and they slowly but surely just wear out the Giants. Plus, if we're being real, Jackson Dart hasn't had his real welcome to the NFL moment yet. The Saints game, maybe you could say it was then, but I mean against a true bona fide defense with an excellent head coach like this is going to be a tough one. I think they're going to scheme and game plan for Dart perfectly, and he's going to have a rough game. It's bound to happen at some point, so why not here? I'm going with the Broncos. This is just a tough game on the road for a rookie quarterback. Another intriguing game in the 4 p.m. slot is the Colts versus the Chargers. How about the Colts, man? 5-1, the best record in the AFC right now. Whoever could have seen something like that coming? But regardless, they're sitting pretty right now. They've been very competent. Their offense looks really good, and they may be able to outpace the Chargers, who are dealing with injuries. They're not going to have Hampton back, obviously. The only good news is Joe Alt and Khalil Mack may be returning for this game, which is definitely a big boost for the Chargers. But in general, it's going to be tough for LA here. The Colts, they're a tough team. Winning does something to you. They're not going to go away in this one. It's going to come down to probably the last possession or so. But the thing is, as good as the Colts have been, and credit goes where it's due, they really have taken advantage of what's been given to them. There's just not all that many big wins on their resume right now. They've taken advantage of a pretty cupcake-like schedule. I know that they did well against the Rams, but I'm not all that high on the Rams right now either. They haven't beaten a real opponent yet. And while I wouldn't necessarily consider the Chargers to be that, especially if they're not at full strength, they still are a well-coached team, and they have an excellent quarterback under center. I think, especially because the Colts aren't as good on the road, that they're going to actually lose this game. Daniel Jones is going to slightly turn into a pumpkin again, like in the Rams game. He's going to make a few mistakes, especially if Khalil Mack's back, and the Chargers are going to win this football game. I believe in Herbert to go down there, march down the field, and command a game-winning drive. He's starting to get Ladd McConkey more involved in the offense. Things are running smoothly, and I think that continues here against the Colts. This is a must-win game, and they're going to take advantage of that. Give me the Chargers. The Colts are going to fold under the pressure of a real opponent. Then at 4:25, the Cowboys are playing the Commanders in a big NFC East battle. Right now, these two are within a game of each other. If the Cowboys win it, they are officially second place in the NFC East. That would be huge for them. They're at home as well. Their offense is still rolling even after a tough loss to the Panthers. Very winnable game for them, but also the Commanders as well, who I don't think played their A game against the Bears by any means. They made a lot of mistakes, but still almost won that game, while the Cowboys got blown out by the Bears pretty handily not that long ago. Again, kind of like with the Panthers game last week, it begs the question for Dallas on if they're able to score 30 or more points. I feel like that's just the magic number for them. If the offense is humming and they get to that 30-plus mark, they're probably going to win this game. But if they don't, then I believe in the Commanders to edge out like a 28-24 victory type of deal. And I'm of the belief that the latter will happen. The Commanders haven't looked that great recently, but I think when they clean up those mistakes that they're probably just going to roll over that Dallas defense. They're not exactly good at making stops happen. The run game should be a lot more effective. Jaden Daniels, he's not going to throw a bunch of interceptions again or anything like that. He's going to make clean throws. Maybe Terry McLaurin comes back to give them even more of a boost on offense. The Cowboys are a tough team, but I think that Commanders defense has shown me enough to believe that they can get a stop or two needed to keep this game from getting out of hand. I believe in Jaden Daniels in the Commanders. They're going to find a way to get this dub against a Cowboys team that's just too one-dimensional to beat anybody relatively good. Then to finish off the 4 p.m. slate on Sunday, you've got the Green Bay Packers versus the Arizona Cardinals. Let's be honest, no matter what version of the Cardinals we get, no matter who's at quarterback, they're probably losing this game. There's just such a big disparity in the talent department. The Packers are way more loaded on paper, and this game's really important for them to keep pace in the race of the NFC North. They gotta win this one, and I definitely think they will. But also realistically, the Cardinals are simply not trustworthy this season. Let's be real, they're going to sometimes take advantage of the bad teams on their schedule. I say sometimes because they literally freaking lost to the Titans. But then when they play the relevant teams, they're going to lose, and lose some more. That's just how this season has gone so far for Arizona. And there's a chance Kyler Murray may not even go out there. There's no confirmation on if he'll even be ready for this game. But again, whether it's him or Jacoby Brissett, no real difference. I suspect the Packers will be winning no matter what, because the Cardinals are just too inconsistent to rely on. Give me the Green Bay Packers by whatever the heck they want. Then on Sunday night, it's the Atlanta Falcons taking on the San Francisco 49ers. This could be a pretty interesting one. The Niners have continued to defy the odds, and they have a good record despite all their injuries, while the Falcons off of a bye went out there and convincingly beat the Buffalo Bills. This could be a very intriguing matchup here. The Falcons, they're so up and down, but it feels like lately we've seen a bit more ups from this group. I like the competence of Michael Penix and how dominant Bijan Robinson has been. They've been drawing up some pretty decent game plans, and I think against an injured San Fran team, we could see more of the same here, despite being underdogs on the road. The issue is the Niners may actually be a bit more healthy in this game. There's a possibility that George Kittle could be available in this game, Ricky Pearsall, and maybe even Brock Purdy, and that could very well turn the tides in the 49ers' favor. But those are all ifs, and even if they are back, they may not be perfectly at 100%. And if we're being real, they still have a lot of other injuries on the table, and if Purdy comes back, I mean, he hasn't even been that great this season. I honestly think Mac Jones has absolutely looked better, so there's a lot of question marks revolving around the Niners right now. I know they've stayed afloat so far, but it can only last for so long when you have so many bodies out there, when you have so many injuries. I'm worried we're headed towards that territory where it starts to come crashing down a little bit just because they're out of manpower. When healthy, when at 100%, the Niners are absolutely the better team, but that's simply not the situation they're in. They're worn out right now, they're trying to incorporate players back into the offense, and now they're without Fred Warner, who is such a crucial part of that defense, one of the only good remaining starters they had, and now they've lost him right at the time when they're about to play Bijan freaking Robinson. Who's going to stop this guy in the run game? I'm very concerned that he's going to have himself a day like we saw with Buffalo. They have no real way, no real second line of defense if he gets past the trenches. I think this could be a disaster class defensive game for the Niners. I have the Falcons winning this game. I love that they're being considered underdogs. I love it. This is my big pick of the week here. Michael Penix is going to march in there, have another good primetime game, and him and Bijan are going to star in a victory against the San Francisco 49ers. I think it's a matchup nightmare for San Fran, and they're going to learn that the hard way. Give me the Atlanta Falcons all day, baby. Then we conclude with the Monday night games. We have a doubleheader, yet again for some strange reason. The first of which is going to be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Detroit Lions, two of the best teams in the NFC going head-to-head here. This is one of those games where the Lions are trying to just get back on the right track consistently, while the Buccaneers have been the cardiac kids, playing a bunch of tough games, but coming out on top in almost all of them. This is one of those situations where it feels like a coin flip to me. It depends on who shows up, but I'm leaning more towards the Lions and them having the advantage in this matchup. It's not to say that I dislike the Bucs. I still think they're an amazing team, and it's really tough for me to ever doubt them with Baker Mayfield. But man, those injuries are starting to pile up. The Lions have some injuries on defense, but I think compared to what the Bucs are losing, that it's not as big of a deal. Remember, they're already down Bucky Irving. Mike Evans, maybe he comes back this week, maybe not. Emeka Egbuka just went down with an injury, and there's a real possibility that he misses this game as well, and now you're left with not much for Baker Mayfield to work with. He's found ways to be successful through a lot of unfortunate situations this season, and we saw it last week firsthand against San Fran with all the injuries, still finding ways to make plays, but that team was also injury depleted. I think a more healthy Lions team is going to give them some trouble, and if they can't keep up points-wise, it's going to be rough for them. The Lions got contained against the Chiefs last week, and you already know they're about to go out there and explode in terms of the point total. Ain't no way they're not scoring at least like 27 or 28 points in this one. I think they're probably going to cross 30. They're overdue for a big performance after getting contained by Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs, and I don't really see how the Bucs can stop it. There's only so much they can do, and again, it's going to be on Baker to play hero ball, and I think those guys are going to fall short just because there's not enough good playmakers on the field to truly make a difference. I like the Lions in this one. This is a game that they really cannot afford to lose, and I think it's theirs for the taking. And finally, to end the week, you have the Seattle Seahawks at home hosting the Houston Texans. The one good thing going for the Texans here is they will be well rested coming into this game. They had a bye week to prepare for this matchup. They got to study a lot of Seattle film extensively and what they did in that Jacksonville game. So maybe they come in prepared and give it an A+ effort. But even then, even with that preparation, I just don't know if it matters. The Texans, they've only beaten crap teams so far. No one really cares that you beat the Titans and the Lamar-less Ravens. What else have you done? What else have you shown for yourself this year? The answer is not much. They played a lot of close games, yeah, but they found ways to always lose them. And after what I witnessed last week with Seattle's D-line destroying Jacksonville, I'm a little terrified of what that means for CJ Stroud and those guys. Their offensive line may be the worst in the NFL, and it's probably not even that close to. So just imagine what Seattle's D-line and heavy blitzes could do to Stroud and those guys. It could be an absolute disaster class game where the Texans just can't move the ball downfield. In my opinion, they're going to have to run the ball if they want to win this, and they don't really have much of a run game to speak of. I feel like all of the cards are being held by Seattle here. They've looked relatively good so far this season. I like how amazing our guy Sam Darnold has looked with Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I think that's going to continue here. I like the Seahawks in a defensive masterclass to beat down the Texans. And that will do it for my Week 6 predictions. Let me know your game picks and best bets down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe for more NFL content.